Mother's Day and welcome to Rice City Online. My name is Sam, I'm a brand new mom, and I'll be your host today. Today is also Compassion Sunday. Be sure to stay tuned for more information. I'm just kidding, Mom. Just a quick reminder, we have online services available for early childhood and elementary school kids available to watch as well. Just go to ricecitychurch.com/nextgenlive. This month, our kids will be learning all about practicing our relationship with God. This week, we'll be talking about practicing and hearing what God has to say. All right, let's get into some worship. If this is your first time joining us, I just want to say welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you're interested in learning more about Rice City Church, we'd love to have the opportunity to connect with you. It's really simple. Just take out your phone and text the word guest to 484848. After that, we'll send you an easy to fill out form to your phone, and once you fill it out, if you're in the San Diego area, we'll send you a coupon for free Chick-fil-A. Again, that's 484848. If you've been attending our online services for the past few weeks, you may have noticed a QR code at the bottom of the screen. If you open your camera on your phone and scan the picture, you'll receive a link to our e-news. The e-news is where we put all the information you need to know what's upcoming here at Rice City Church, as well as opportunities to give, links to our Kidsmen online services, and so much more. Our Rise to Life 3-week class is coming up. In this class, we answer the question, what exactly does it mean to have faith in Jesus, and how does it relate to who we are and living the life God created us for? Our aim will be to discover and grow in what it means to wake up to faith in Jesus, rise to life in Him, and shine to the world around us. This 3-week class will be from 6 to 8 p.m. and start on May 16th. More information can be found by scanning the QR code or visiting ricecitychurch.com/events. No matter how long you've been a Christian, there's nothing like getting together and celebrating with some baptisms. We will be having a baptism service at church on Sunday, June 13th during both services. We also want to encourage anyone interested in getting baptized to consider attending the Rise to Life class. Following Jesus is a serious commitment, and we want to do everything we can to answer the questions you may have and clarify why exactly we choose baptism and what the commitment means. If you are unable to attend the Rise to Life class, there will be a mandatory information meeting on Sunday, June 5th at 5 p.m. here at the church, where we will cover some of the basics and help you get ready. All the information is available on the sign-up form online. Finally, we just want to say thank you for your continued generosity. We just want to remind you that you can give on the app, website, or in person at our physical location. It's because of this generosity we are able to support our church plants and plant more churches locally and globally. We then partner with Compassion International to sponsor the children of the specific churches. Your generosity goes a long way, so we thank you. In light of Compassion Sunday, here's a quick video we hope you'll find encouraging.
So the time is coming for me to meet my sponsored child. I'm excited, I'm nervous, I don't really know what to expect. 4 flights to get down here, 3 different countries, 24 hours. It feels like she's a million miles away. I have her picture, I know she's 8 years old, and I know her name is Gabrielle.
Ter uma vida mais pra frente, bem sucedida, né? Apesar das dificuldades, a gente sonha, né?
Não puxa assim igual a mim, porque como eu já tenho um problema, tomo um remédio controlado, eu não quero que ela fique nessa mesma situação, né? Porque eu já percebo que ela é um pouco bastante nervosa.
When I think about the poverty in the world, it's overwhelming. It can feel like a mountain of challenges, heartache, systems that are broken. When it really comes down to it, it's all about the one. It's about one person reaching out to another person. I can't take on the problems of the world. And just because there's so many problems and I don't know how to handle them doesn't excuse me from doing something.
Bom dia.
I want you to know that I believe in your dreams.
Eu quero que você entenda.
And you have two parents who love you, and I know they believe in your dream too. But don't forget,
Mas não se esqueça.
you have a light inside,
Você tem uma luz dentro do seu coração.
and the world needs to see it.
E o mundo precisa ver essa luzinha.
I love you.
Wasn't that so powerful? And the part that's so cool about that video we just watched is that by the end of my talk or this service today, you may have the opportunity to also sponsor a child and someday go visit that child that you are sponsoring. Welcome to Compassion Sunday, Rise City Church. I know today is another day that we are remembering with Mother's Day, and so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with Compassion Sunday. Let me start by saying Happy Mother's Day to all you mamas out there, and a special Happy Mother's Day to my mom. My gosh, I don't know where I'd be at in life without you. If the dictionary had a picture beside the word mom, I'm sure yours would be there. But right next to that same picture would be also one of the best, if not the best mom I know, which is my wife, Jamie, the mother of our 4 kids. And so I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to all you moms. But today, a little bit different than what you may expect. As opposed to talking about moms, I thought it'd be important to really talk about what I believe is, I assume for at least most moms, really central and a deep passion for them, and that is children. And that is the focus of Compassion Sunday, sponsoring children in countries around the world, particularly third world countries. And in particular for us here at Rise City Church, children living in Bolivia and Peru. And by the end of my talk today, you're gonna have the opportunity for $38 a month, which is what you might even spend at Chick-fil-A these days, or just a meal or two out. For $38 a month, you can sponsor a child, and that child's life has a potential to be completely changed because of the ability to have food, to have education, to have medical help, hygienic help, and also partnership with the local church. So the opportunity to get spiritual help. And so we're going to talk today about, I believe, what is the heart of God, and be able to join the mission of Jesus in sponsoring these children. And someday, our hope in the next couple years here at Rise City Church, that we're going to go visit these children that we sponsor. Because these particular children, many of them are connected to our church plants in Aurora, Bolivia, as well as La Paz, Peru. And so I am hoping what you saw in that video, you're going to be able to experience personally someday. So let me start with a moment that completely gave me a new perspective. It was an awakening, if you will. I was 18 years old. I just started going to this church. Many of you know I'd been arrested for drinking and driving, so this is the church that I was invited to. I hadn't yet said yes to Jesus. And one of the things that caught my interest in this church was there was a particular girl there, and she was a pretty girl. And there was a mission trip going to be taking place that summer to Juarez, Mexico, to build homes for families there. I said yes with an ulterior motive. I really didn't care about building homes for any families. I cared about a 24-hour bus ride with this attractive female. I'm 18. Now, this sounds like an ideal thing. And so I said yes to going to Juarez, Mexico. In the first 24 hours, I was full in trying to make sure I got as much time as I could to be in conversation around this girl. But I had no idea. I absolutely had no idea what was going to take place the first morning that we arrived in Juarez. And when we pulled up in Juarez, Mexico, to this area, just a area full of dirt, and there was a family of 6 lying there, sleeping on the ground. Like this was their plot of land, evidently, but there was no structure to, cover them. I had never seen anything like this in my life. It was sobering. It was humbling. It was like, people really live like this? Like I had never had a firsthand experience with that type of poverty. To see the mom and the dad and the 4 children just lying there. And it was cold, man. It was frigid outside. I never had considered just how fortunate I was until that moment. And by the end of that trip, we built what for, I assume, many people watching was a very modest to, well, many of us would say inadequate structure, but nonetheless, it covered them, but it was their house. And we dedicated that home to that family of 6 in the name of Jesus. And that family, like that family was so grateful. And I remember while we were building, just interacting with and playing with a lot of the kids there. My heart changed in those moments. I didn't care about that girl anymore. Like, whatever, someone else can have fun with you on the way home, talking to you and try to pursue you. My life just got turned upside down. For me, this was one of the reasons I became a Christian, because it was a very tangible way that I was seeing the love of Christ expressed to help people in need. And to hold the hand of the child in my hand and for her to look up at me, and then for the son, and just, they thought we were like superheroes, you know? Little did they know my alternative motive. And that really did. It was an awakening to me, and it shaped me. And I said, if this is what Christianity is about, if this is one of the things that Christians do, then my gosh, of course I want to be a part of that. And how can I not leverage my privilege and living in the United States of America to somehow help those that have less fortunates, even though they don't even realize they have less fortunates. They actually were arguably more joyful. But that was the transformational moment for me. And it's like I was blind before, but now I had new eyes to see. Right? You've heard that refrain, I was blind, but now I see. And you can't unsee what you've seen, so how can you not respond when you've seen? And so that for me was my starting point in the journey of wanting to help. And in the process of helping, having my heart constantly, I was being helped too. It's not like just one side. Like, I mean, it was huge. And I believe what we're going to talk about today, one, we're going to see the heart of Jesus, but two, it has the ability to transform our life. And it's what Jesus calls us to do. This is what Jesus is calling us to be his hands and feet and to do this today. And so I'm excited for us to have those types of experiences and for us to sponsor these children. So let me read an encounter from John chapter 9. And in John chapter 9, we've been going through the book of John, and I mean, this just happened to fall at the right place. Like, we didn't plan this out. It's like, oh, this is a perfect passage to talk about for Compassion Sunday. But this encounter, I think, is so important for us to dive into for a couple minutes before we talk about the specifics of how we can go about sponsoring these children in Bolivia and Peru. So John chapter 9, verses 1 through 11, and then I'm going to just look at verse 25 as well. This is happening right after John 8, and in John 8, if you recall, Jesus has been in Jerusalem, and it's been the Feast of Tabernacles. That's ended. He then stands up and defends a woman caught in the act of adultery. And then he has a dialogue with Jews and Jewish leaders and essentially tells them, hey, your father's the devil. So, I mean, he's ruffled some feathers here, and people are like irate. And I mean, he stirred the pot, and now he's leaving the temple area. And as they're leaving the temple area, they're still in Jerusalem, they're going to see a particular man that's going to capture the attention of Jesus' disciples. This is what it says, John chapter 9, verse 1. It says, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. And while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. After saying this, he spit on the ground and he made some mud with saliva and he put it on the man's eyes. And all God's people said, gross, right? Like one of the more unique miracles or tactics to perform a miracle by Jesus here. So he spits on the ground, puts it on the man's eyes. Verse 7 says, go, he told him now, and wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and he washed and he came home seeing. His neighbors and those who'd formerly seen him begging asked, Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? As well as, isn't this the man who couldn't see, like he was blind? Some claimed that it was him. Others said, no, this guy only looks like him. That's not really him. But the man himself insisted, no, it's me. Like, I am the man. How then were your eyes opened, they asked. He replied, the man they called Jesus made some mud and he put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and to wash, and so I went and washed, and then I could see. And then in verse 25, when he's later being asked questions by some Pharisees, he just says simply, I was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see. Let's jump into this encounter for a few minutes. So the first couple verses, we have, right, Jesus walking with the disciples, and the disciples see this man blind from birth. And the first thing that these disciples do when they see this man blind from birth is they ask Jesus the question, hey, whose sin brought about this man's blindness? Now, this may seem like a very insensitive and even maybe ancient type of question. Like, who says stuff like that? People still do that? But like, I mean, many ways, kind of like the way karma operates, like good things bring about good things, bad things bring about bad things. I mean, it's kind of the same mentality that they had back then, that like, well, evidently if this man's born blind, then something must have happened. Either he sinned at some point in his life to, bring about this misfortune in his life, or it was maybe a generational thing and maybe his parents sinned, right? Something bad happened to bring about this bad condition for him, because if he'd been having a good life, he must have been a good person. And so the disciples ask, like, hey, what's the story here, Jesus? Whose sin brought about this man's blindness? And what's striking to me, which I think we can miss if we're not paying attention, is the first response these disciples had when they saw a man born blind was to talk about the man's condition rather than actually go talk to the man, or maybe even perhaps see if there's any way they could help the man who had this condition. There's a difference, right? They saw the man, and their natural inclination was to begin jumping into theological categories and philosophical meanderings as far as what brings about this nature of suffering for this man. Let's talk about it. Let's theorize. Let's deduce the possible hypotheses here in this moment of what brought about this man's condition. But there's nothing to say that they had any desire to go to this man and help him in his condition. And does not the shoe fit for many of us? Right? When we come up close and personal sometimes with people that are in suffering situations, our tendency is to want to talk about it, debate about it, theorize about it, create theological categories for it. Ask the question, perhaps, why, right? Why the suffering? We want to know, like, the meaning. What's the purpose? Why suffering? And yet we avoid the question of what. There's suffering there. I don't really know why, but what can I do to help? What can I do rather than why? And I think that that's the case for many of us, right? Whether it's seeing children who are in poverty, whether it's seeing families in poverty, seeing people on the street holding up signs asking for food, right? And if we're honest, sometimes our mind runs to like that idea of karma. Like, well, something he must have done, or she must have done something bad, or someone did something bad, or they were lazy, or there's something wrong, and that's why they're in this current circumstance. Right? So we just say that and we do nothing. We keep on driving. We keep on walking by. Sometimes that's the case when we find out that maybe families are getting broken apart because of divorce. No one actually tries to step in and say, hey, what can we do to try to help here? Or a child goes wayward, or an addiction takes over, right? I find it troubling, to be honest, how weak many of us are when it comes to suffering, not just ourselves, but the suffering of those around us. And it's almost like we'd rather talk about it to remove ourselves from it because we don't want to jump into it. The disciples like, hey, Jesus, like whose fault is it? Come on. Let's give an excuse of why this guy's blind here on the side of the road. And what Jesus says really pushes against the kind of conventional wisdom, if you will, the cultural belief, the spiritual understanding of the day of believing that, well, it must have been somebody's sin here that caused it, because Jesus doesn't say that it was this man's sin or his family's sin. He actually says neither. Neither. I'm gonna bust your categories up, and I'm not gonna give you that. It was neither this man nor his parents who sinned, said Jesus. But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Catch that? Jesus says it actually really wasn't this guy's fault or anybody's fault. And if you were to go underneath the surface more, Jesus is saying it's not someone's fault. This is actually a result of everyone's fault. And God's going to work in this and through this to display his glory through this man. Now, what's that mean? Wait a minute, whose fault is it? Well, it's not that guy's fault. It's not his parents' fault. It's not any particular person's fault. It's actually, this is a ramification of everyone's fault here because we got an issue of sin. And sin creates brokenness. And the world that we live in is a broken world, and broken people are in the world. And sometimes people are just born into the brokenness, and the result, the exponential effect of sin from the beginning of time has brought about a lot of hurt and pain in people's lives, to the point some people are born with physical ailments and deficiencies, emotional instabilities, working through systems of a culture that seem to hold them back rather than lift them up. Sometimes that's the nature of just everyone who has sinned. This man didn't have a particular sin. It wasn't his family that caused that. No, it's actually everyone's fault, because sin is a part of the world. And Jesus says, that's why I'm actually here, because I want to do something about that. Everyone has to take ownership, because all of us are guilty. All of us have sinned and fallen short. And to want to point fingers, it must be this person, this is the person. No, all of us. But God will not let that be the end of the story, right? He says, this happened, that God's going to work through this so that God might display his glory through him, so that the works of God might be displayed in him. And Jesus goes on and says, as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me, because night is coming and then no one's going to be able to work. But while I'm here, I am the light of the world. Jesus tells them in this moment, listen, you can excuse yourself by having discussions about this, or you can recognize all of us are part of the problem. So how do we all become a part of the solution? I love that he says that in this moment. He says, as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. We. Now, Jesus one's about ready to hawk a loogie, wipe mud on the guy's face and heal the guy. But he says, all of us, we must do the works of him who sent me, which is talking about God the Father. He says, here's the deal. You can talk about it all you want, but why don't you be about the help? Don't just be the part talk about the problem, be part of the solution. Don't just talk about it, be about it. Don't ask why this is happening, ask what. Right? We can be a part of the solution here. That's what Jesus is telling them. Like you're missing the point. Like, all of us have caused the problem, so all of us could also be active agents of hope and healing to be a part of the solution. And Jesus is modeling to his very disciples here not to just be people of rhetoric, rhetorical questions, using language as a barrier to actually get our hands dirty and to help. And he speaks to a level of urgency too, because he says, here's the deal, night is coming. There's a time, right, when we are living in a time. You're in a time now, they're in a time then, we're still living, when night is coming. And we have been given a limited amount of time on this spinning planet. And do you want to spend your time on this planet just excusing away opportunities to help and bring hope and healing in Jesus' name? Or do you want to actually be used by God himself? Because he wants to use you. He wants to use you. I mean, we even say things sometimes to excuse ourselves from getting in the midst of helping other people by saying, I got to pray about it. Pray about it? Wait. I mean, I'm not dismissing prayer, but what do you need to pray about? I mean, we're talking about children here on Compassion Sunday. Children who are born in circumstances that it was not their fault. Right? Like you came out of the birth canal in the United States of America. They came in Bolivia or Peru and into abject poverty. Extreme poverty is sometimes referred to as. Extreme poverty, which strickens nearly 800 million people around the globe. 800 million. And what extreme poverty is those living off $1.90 per day or less. And of the 800 million that live in that situation, half of those are kids, 400 million children live on $1.90 per day or less. You can't even buy a cup of Starbucks coffee here for that. I mean, you don't have enough. And then when you look at poverty in general, 4 billion people, which is half the world's population, live on $2.50 a day or less. With nearly 1 billion of those, 1 billion of the 4 billion being children. And just like this blind man, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. This is the hand that they were dealt. And they have to come into an existence where they have to worry each and every day whether or not they're just going to have enough to survive. We worry about a standard of living. Those individuals and those children, they have to work off of just living. For us, we label poverty at not being able to have a certain standard of living, which is posh compared to more than half the planet. They're just trying to figure out how to live. How am I going to get drinking water? How am I going to get food in my belly? And not like a big meal, but like just some rice, some beans. Many of them, their dads are absent or alcoholics. I've been there. I've seen it. I remember in 2014 going to Bolivia and seeing some of the places that our churches are now at. And it was much like reminiscent of Juarez, Mexico. People sleep on the ground, or there's very tattered structures. Their shoes, if they had shoes, had holes in them. Their feet were touching the ground. The food was not even existent. Medical complications and issues because of the lack of just what we would see to be everyday treatment. But then I remember going and seeing what Compassion International did there in those places and partnering directly with the local church. And much like a church like Rise City and other churches who financially sponsor, they build a building. That building becomes this church, but also becomes a place for them to have school, becomes a place for them to get food. They partner with the families, and they begin to take care of the physical needs, the emotional, the medical, the hygienic, and ultimately the spiritual needs of these children, where they don't have to worry about just having enough to survive, but they can actually start to think about purpose and meaning. And being connected to a local church, then the meaning comes to the name of Jesus. I remember going not just to the actual site and location, but then going to kind of in Aurora, Bolivia, one of the headquarters there for Compassion there in Bolivia, and being just amazed that most of the employees there at that headquarters were formerly sponsored children who had now made it through the program and were leveraging their opportunity to help others still hurting. I love that these disciples wanted to talk about it. At least they recognize it. I don't fault them. But I love even more that Jesus says, let's not just talk about it. Let's be about it. And Rise City, what would that look like for us today to be about it? And so we have this moment where Jesus then spits on the ground. I don't really know why he did that. That's gross. I don't really know. There's a lot of theological, I'm not going to get into that. Scholars think, I don't really care. I mean, the guy was blind. He wasn't deaf. He heard Jesus spit on the ground. I mean, can you imagine all of a sudden just hearing like this sound of and being like, well, what is that? And then feeling a wet substance placed on your face. But nonetheless, Jesus puts this, spit mud on his eyes And then he tells them to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. Now, we're not exactly sure where Jesus is at in this moment, but what we do know is the pool of Siloam was located very south of the temple. And at some point, he still had to go. He had to go, right? The blind man, Jesus responded in such a way where he said, I want to show you, I don't just see this man talk with the man. I'm going to actually provide an opportunity to help this man. But then the man had to then respond as well and say, am I actually going to listen to what this man Jesus says? He's never even seen Jesus, right? Because he can't see. But he probably can hear, maybe knows that this is a potential traveling healer, maybe Messiah, whatever. But he says, I need you to go to the pool of Siloam and to wash. And at some point, he has to make a decision. Am I offended? Am I confused? Am I frustrated because the guy spit in my face, literally? Or do I trust this guy and actually walk to the pool of Siloam, wash it off, and see if there's any legitimacy? And this man makes the choice to go to the pool of Siloam. Now, who knows if this man heard snickering and laughter as he walked, because people were like, oh, look, the guy's got spit mud on his face. I don't know, but make no mistake about it, it took some faith and it took obedience. Same thing with Jesus. It took some faith, it took some obedience to carry out the works of God, to be, right, obedient to the Father's will, to help in this situation. And when the man washes the spit mud off of his face and his eyes, he can see. I think sometimes we're so used to the stories of Jesus that they don't rivet our heart. Can you imagine blind and begging, never being able to see, and then all of a sudden you have sight? You have sight. That changes everything, right? Changes everything. And what do you think were most impressionable to this born blind man now that can see? Was it most impressionable when he actually could see his surroundings? Perhaps he was able to see family members, see neighbors. Perhaps what was striking to him, he was just able to see the surroundings that he had lived in, and maybe it was I can't believe, he saw other people hurting. But he was blind, and now he can see. And from that point, people take notice. Right? We're told that the neighbors and people are starting to ask, hey, isn't this a guy that used to beg? Wasn't this guy born blind, right? And people are like, no, it can't be him. No, I really think it's him. No. And finally he has to speak up and he says, hey, it's really me. How did this happen? I don't really know. Because here's the thing. The guy's he doesn't really, what's amazing is this blind man didn't know Jesus. Never seen him, couldn't see him. Didn't even, all he knew what he could hear. And he said, there's a guy named Jesus. He spit on the mud, wiped it in my face, told me to go wash, and now I was blind. But now I can see. And if you continue reading John 9, you see Jesus comes to him and eventually invites him to believe fully, and he does place his faith in Jesus. But it initially starts with Jesus just stepping into his pain, his hurt, his suffering. And that provides an opportunity for the man eventually to respond to Jesus. And you gotta believe that the neighbors and everybody else were like, oh my goodness. That probably heightened the street cred of Mr. Jesus in that moment, right? It's a beautiful story. I once was blind, but now I can see. I once was blind, but now I can see. I wholeheartedly believe the most effective, powerful testimony is that of a transformed life. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It's just, I once was this blank, and now I'm this blank. And people are left to say, what are you gonna do about that? I once was blind, but now I can see. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was drunk or an alcoholic, but now I'm sober. I once was greedy, but now I'm generous. I once used words that cut people down, but now I use words that build people up. I once was full of lust, but now I'm full of love. I once was cynical, but now I'm optimistic. I once was filled with hate, but now I have forgiven others. I once was bitter, but now I'm better. a transformed life is a powerful testimony. And that's what this man begins to present. We don't know a lot of what takes place outside after this for this man. But I got to believe as he starts to follow Jesus and he has that story, his life made impact in significant ways to those around him. And so what in the world does this have to do? I mean, maybe you're kind of tracking, but what does this then mean then for us on this Compassion Sunday? And I think as I looked at this passage, I do believe that the Lord is speaking to us and saying that these are the parallels for us today to make. First off, Jesus, right? He was the rabbi. He's the teacher. He's leading by example to the disciples, something that he wants them to learn. And I think Jesus still wants us to learn that too. Sometimes we need to just see that Jesus didn't get into the theorizing and the philosophical and the theological and the let's talk about it, let's ask questions about it, but he just said, let's be about it. He stepped into the suffering and created an opportunity for hope and healing to be brought forth. And he invites the disciples, right? We must do the works of the Father who sent me. Night is coming right now. Right now is your opportunity. Right now is your opportunity. And I am the light of the world. I'm here. I am with you. I'm in you. Let's do something. Jesus, our rabbi, our teacher is saying the same thing. Let's do this. We are the disciples, right? We're the disciples in this story. I really believe that. And I believe that Jesus is wanting us, as we are now face to face with understanding that there is human suffering, that there is poverty, and we have an opportunity as a church to help these children, to sponsor these children, to actually connect and be in relationship with these kids. Because when you sponsor a child for $38 a month with Compassion International, you're not just giving them money, but you're going to have correspondence. You're able to write letters. You're able to send gifts. We're able to go visit them. But we have a chance right now, Rise City Church, to say, I hate the fact that there's still suffering. I hate the fact that there's abject poverty. I hate the fact that people are fortunate, other people are less fortunate, that some people have privilege, and other people seem to have less privilege. And I don't understand why, but I understand we're all a part of this cosmic chaos that sin brought about. But instead of hiding behind my categories, I just want to step in. I can't help everyone, but I can help someone. And you can help someone. You can help one of these children. You can help one of these children by the $38 a month. I mean, maybe you were blind even to hearing this up till now. Now you're starting to see, right? And you can't unsee what you've seen. So now let's do something about it here. And I really do. I think like the blind man, for us, he represents the children that we're wanting to sponsor in Bolivia and Peru. Now, if you're watching online, which I'm sure most of you are, the children that you will sponsor are directly in Bolivia. But this blind man, right? He didn't even know Jesus. Many of these children we're going to start sponsoring, they don't know Jesus, but a part of the sponsorship is them getting connected to a local church, which is going to give them the opportunity to know who Jesus is. And we're not held responsible for what decision the child makes. We're held responsible with, you have been given an opportunity, and Jesus says, how are you going to respond? And now if I respond and I begin to sponsor and to connect, now this child has the opportunity. Are they going to choose someday to go to the pool of Siloam and begin to wash and to have vision as well? And someday maybe they themselves also will then begin to help. Maybe they'll work there in Bolivia at the headquarters or who knows. But our responsibility is to help and to step into the suffering and try to be an agent of hope and healing. For them, they get to receive this. They are no longer having to stress about, worry about their physical needs, their clothing, right? Their medical, all that stuff. They can actually get an education, which will give them an opportunity also to consider Jesus. As a father of 4, I thought about this a lot. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine what it would be like to have to worry every single day if I could provide just something for my kids. My kids have the opportunity to process and hear the good news because of all their physical needs being met. So let's let's help. Let's help. That's the call. Compassion Sunday. That's who we are, Rise City. Right? One of our values, we're action-oriented, which means we lean into giving more than getting. So let's give. Let's give. And for some of you, they're like, well, who is this whole Compassion International thing? Let me give you some information. You just go to the website and do the research, but Compassion International is in 25 countries, helping nearly 1.8 million children at this point through sponsorships. And for that $38 a month, like I mentioned, the ability to provide education, to provide for food, to provide for a church, to provide for medical and hygienic needs. 80% of every dollar given goes directly to your sponsored child and their family. The other 20% goes to like overhead and things like that, but that's exceptional. That's exceptional. They are Christ-centered, they are child-focused, and they are church-based. They partner with over 6,700 local churches throughout those 25 developing countries. They've been going since 1952. There's almost 70 years. And they have just been making massive impact. As I shared with you, if you saw the video we made in last week's service, we currently have 2 children that we sponsor through Compassion. Wilmer, who's in Bolivia, and then Melda, who's in Indonesia. We sponsored Melda prior to us planting a church in Bolivia. We will be sponsoring another child, or maybe a couple of children. My wife and I have decided, I know one child, because we have these kids, they're actually aligning with our kids' ages. So Melda's just turned 10, our daughter Elise is 10. Here's Wilmer, he's turning 8, Shepherd is 8. We know we're going to hopefully be able to sponsor a 6-year-old. So our daughter Hope will have that connection, and then a 4-year-old as well for our son Connor. And our hope with this is not just for Jamie and I to be helping, but for our whole family to be engaged with these kids and someday to go meet them. We're even asking our kids, like we always, when they get money, they have to give a portion to give, to save, and then to live off the rest, For them it's like not much left, but they're giving money. A part of it is going to go to monthly sponsoring these kids. So I want to challenge you. I want to implore you. I don't need you to go pray right now. I just want to ask you, let's do this. Sponsor a child. Sponsor more than one child. And don't just give the money, but begin to connect and write the letters and connect with them and watch what God does, not just in their life, but what God does in your life as well. And you might come away saying, I once was blind, but now I can see. And so here's what you're going to need to do. As you're watching online, you're listening, all I need you to do is get your phone. If you're driving, to stop, pull over the side of the road, and I just need you to text the word RISE. RISE, R-I-S-E. You can do it all uppercase or lowercase, doesn't matter. Text the word RISE to 83393. 83393. Text the word RISE to 83393. And when you do that, you are going to get a link sent to your phone immediately. You click that link and automatically a child is going to come on that web browser. A child that lives right there in Bolivia, that is in the vicinity of our church plants. And you can enter your information immediately and start to sponsor that child now. That's it. And we'll continue to give more updates along the way, but our goal as a church is at minimum, we want to sponsor 150 children. I'd love to go way past that. Rise, you always do. We're action-oriented. Let's go past that and sponsor more children. But text the word RISE to 83393. Click the link. The child that you get, it's not like if you're watching online or listening, the opportunity to kind of like, hey, I want this type of kid or this kid, you will not have that opportunity. The child that's sent to you is who you will begin to sponsor. So I would say look at that as just like divine ordinance. Like he said, okay, there's the child that you got. Start sponsoring that kid or those children. And I am praying that all of us have an awakening. And we would say, I'm not going to wait for someday. Today is someday. And I'm jumping in. I once was blind, but now I see. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that Well, I cannot wait to let you know next week how many children we as a church collectively sponsored. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sponsoring these children. And man, the stories that we're going to tell and even the blessings that we're able to experience as we interact with these children, perhaps go visit these children someday, man, they're gonna be the stories that we get to tell in heaven to everybody else. And so I'm so excited for that. Also, once again, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, moms out there. I hope you don't feel like we hijacked your day for something else, but you know what? We kind of did. You know, like you love kids, we love kids. Let's sponsor some kids. But now also, if you're watching, you got a mama, call her, give her some flowers, take her out to dinner, whatever the case may be. But happy Mother's Day to all of you moms out there. Happy Mother's Day. And man, so grateful for you, Rise City Church. So grateful that we are, and we are still trying to become a loving, life-giving church who brings hope and healing in Jesus' name. And so now, may we be a people who wake up, rise, and shine. We wake up to Jesus, right? The Jesus who puts like spit mud on your eyes and says, hey, things might be what you think, but like you were blind, but now you're gonna see. You wake up to that Jesus, and when you have your eyes open, you rise to life in Him. Part of rising to life in Him is you follow Him, you follow His ways, and He showed us His ways. He said, it's no one's fault there, but you can do something about it here. And we shine bright to others. You shined bright today, Rise City, by sponsoring these children. Well done, and we'll give you the report next week. God bless.